The information provided in this video does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice or financial advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials available in this video are for general informational purposes only. It is recommended that you consult with an attorney or financial expert licensed in your jurisdiction. To find attorneys in your area, you can visit your state's Bar Association website.
My name is Wesley Cornwell. I have helped a lot of people with the unemployment process, filing, doing the weekly claims. I've done quite a bit of representation in the unemployment system on the appellate level. So when people get denied benefits and they have to appeal it, I've gone in and helped employees get unemployment. And I've also been on the employer side helping the employer deny the employee unemployment benefits. So I understand both sides of this process, and I'm going to approach it with the knowledge from both sides of this process. So I guess another disclaimer is there's a lot of questions. Some of the questions have answers that you're just not going to like. That's just kind of how it is. And we can talk about those a little bit later. So the purpose of unemployment, first of all, the unemployment program is an insurance program. It is not considered a tax, although it is funded through kind of a pseudo tax, but it is considered an insurance program. It is administered by the states, so each individual state has its own guidelines for how unemployed people access these financial resources. That being said, some of the money comes from the federal government through grants. So the federal government will give the states the money. However, it is still administered by the states. Quick little government lesson in the United States. We effectively have 52 different governments, one in each state, DC, and then the federal government. They are all different, although they are also all similar. The biggest point of this is they are all their own government. They are all different sovereigns. So they all have control over what is within their jurisdiction. And that's where we're going to get the differences between, for example, Massachusetts and New York. And why does New York do it like this, but Massachusetts like this? Why can Florida deny claims right away, whereas Massachusetts is admitting everything? Why are some states allowing this and some aren't? It's because they still have control over the system. The CARES Act just gave them money for certain purposes, such as pandemic unemployment assistance, okay? But it's still all administered by the state, so you have to follow their guidelines. The original intention of unemployment was not to replace an individual's full salary. It's designed to give people a percentage of your non-retirement income, okay? And so we'll get into that non-retirement bit a little bit later because it goes with the whole wage reporting and JetBlue reporting wages and Massachusetts saying, okay, great, here's your wages, and then people saying, no, it's wrong. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but keep in mind that it is a portion of your income that is not being saved for retirement. The way that it's funded is employers pay in the neighborhood, plus or minus 0.5%, approximately 2% of what they pay out in payroll. They pay an additional 2% of that to the state, and that is what funds the unemployment insurance program. So it's just like paying a premium. They pay it every month, okay? Some states they pay every quarter, but in most it's every month. And that's why it's not designed to replace your entire income, because the state's only collected 2% of what you've been paid. And then when they have to pay that out, you get above that 2% pretty quickly, all right? So keep in mind, it's not designed to replace your full income. Secondly, unemployment insurance was never designed to handle a reduction in hours claim. And that's where a lot of us are kind of sitting right now, is we're doing a reduction hours claim or reduced hours claim. Unemployment was designed to handle claims from individuals that were completely separated from their employment. So they went from having a job to not having a job, point blank. Not from having a job that was paying them 100 hours a month to having a job that's now only paying 30 hours a month. That was never intended to be covered. Because of that, we now have a ton of system limitations that are coming up in this process that we have to work around and each individual state has to work around. Right now, human intervention, if something goes wrong in the claim process, human intervention is taking approximately a month before the issue is even assigned to an individual to review. Okay, and so some of the stuff that we're going to talk about in here is going to be to work around the issues so that you're reporting it accurately, you're doing it correctly, but you're also not causing the computer system to freeze everything. And I know there's a lot of questions that have been submitted through the form about like the very first week being on hold or a random week in the middle being on hold for whatever reason. And people saying, well, it's been on hold for 2 weeks now. What now? So just a quick recap. Unemployment was intended to replace a portion of your income after you completely lost your job. It was not designed to handle reduced hour claims. And it's funded through a 2% premium or tax that employers pay. One other thing that I want to bring up before we really get into the individual questions is there is a legal doctrine and theory against what's known as double recovery. And double recovery is if you're able to bill the same hour to 2 different people and get paid for the same thing twice. There is a legal doctrine that says that is not okay. So if you work an hour and get paid for the hour from JetBlue, you then cannot also get paid for that hour from unemployment. If you end up in that situation, you are subject to what is known as recapture, and they can come after you to recoup the amount of the double payment. All right, so again, you cannot be paid for the same thing from 2 different people, the same amount. All right, so when we get further into it, if I say that would violate double recovery or that would constitute double recovery, that's what I'm talking about. You're getting into a situation where JetBlue might be paying you and unemployment is paying you, and that's going to be an issue later on. Before I move on, just on that information that I've given you, I'll open it up to questions. So use the raise your hand button for now. I just want to make sure that everybody kind of understands the basics of it, or if I need to go back and reiterate something. Leslie, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. I had took what's called EMER, I guess, for April because my children weren't in school and their father still had to work. So my COVID leave doesn't start until May, but for I filed for unemployment and they did give me unemployment, but I was confused because I still got 2 paychecks from JetBlue in April. And when I asked about it, I had called the unemployment line. They told me that since that was money that was for hours that I worked in March, that I didn't need to claim it in April. So now I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, I'm confused now because it seems like since I got unemployment and my checks from JetBlue, like, did I double dip even though I didn't work in April?
Good question. No, you're fine. You did not end up doing double recovery because EMER is not pay protected, I believe. And so you weren't paid for the same hour twice. So you still filed for your loss in hours, and you truly did have a loss in hours. Where you would get into the double recovery is, let's say that you fly, and this is going to be a very raw and rough example, so please do not read too much into this. Let's say you fly an average of 70 hours a month because you bid and then you drop down to 70, right? But now you try to file a claim for reduction in hours because you were awarded 70 hours and then everything canceled, so you got pay protected for that 70 hours. You really didn't have a reduction in hours there, so that would be double recovery. Okay? So as long as you can point back to something and say, no, I never got paid for this, and I filed unemployment and that's what it was compensating me for, then you're okay with the double recovery theory.
All in April, so that is fine. Thank you.
Yep. So any other questions on just kind of the background information? All right. So let's first tackle initial filing. One of the big questions is, where do I file? Right? And this is where it can kind of get tricky when you start reading a bunch of the different information, even from the unemployment websites. So keep in mind that we are odd. We are a very different type of work group. Okay? We fall under federal exemptions that are typically found in the Railway and Transport Workers Act. And that kind of leads to a whole host of issues with us, but that's where most of our exemptions come from. Because of that, we live in one spot, we're based in another, but we really don't work in that jurisdiction either. We just show up to leave it, right? And that creates a little bit of a problem. So typically, under normal circumstances, you would apply in the state that you live in, right? So if you had a normal job where you never left your state, then you would apply in that state. But because of how we operate, you apply where you are based. All right, so if you're based in Boston, you're going to apply in Massachusetts. If you are based in JFK, you're going to apply in New York. If you're based in Lauderdale or Orlando, you're going to apply in Florida. And likewise, if you're based in Long Beach, you're going to apply in California. You are going to apply where you are based. But there's an exception to that. You're going to apply where you were based for the majority of the preceding 12 months. All right? So if you worked in Fort Lauderdale for the last 10 months and you just transferred to Boston, you're applying in Florida. Because that's where that 2% of your salary was paid to, was to Florida. All right, does that make sense? So you've always got to go back to which bucket did the money go into, all right? And so the bucket of money is based on your prior 12 months, which is called your base period. And it's a slightly more complicated than that, but it's basically the prior 12 months. Whichever bucket JetBlue is paying into, that's where you're going to claim against that bucket and say, hey, part of that bucket is mine. All right. So I had a question come up. Well, what if I file here and I get denied? Or what if I already submitted an application over here? What do I, and I think it's wrong. What do I do? The answer to that is wait for them to deny you and then go apply where they recommend you apply. And that's typically going to be your base or your previous base. If you've submitted 2 applications because you're trying to be ahead of the game, that's okay. But if both of them get approved, it's not extra free money because now you're into double recovery territory. And you need to contact one of them to say, hey, this is what happened. Is that making sense? You can just nod if it's making sense or shake your head or, all right. So when you initially file, you cannot file prior to your last day of work. It's just going to complicate, it's just going to complicate things because it could automatically close your case and then you have to go through reopening it. And now you have a pretty big red flag on your claim, which could get caught in audit later on. So one of the things that you kind of need to be thinking about is avoiding creating red flags because you don't want to go through the audit process later on. Okay, so just a lot of it is kind of commonsensical. You answer the questions honestly and you'll be okay. Don't try to preempt something, wait for it to actually happen and then respond to it. So it's kind of like fatigue. Crew services always says, well, you cannot forecast fatigue. You can't call me now and say, you're going to be too tired in 5 hours to operate the flight. You need to call me in 5 hours and say, I'm too tired to operate. Same thing with unemployment. Don't say, well, I'm going to be on leave in 2 weeks, so I'm going to file now. Just file in 2 weeks, okay? 90% of the process is automated. So as long as you don't throw up a red flag, you're going to be okay. You're going to file today, and you're going to get a decision within the next 2 to 4 business days. All right, so it's not going to hold anything up. On the initial filing, you're going to report your last day of work. So what I recommend is if your last day of work is April 30th, then you're going to apply for unemployment on April 30th or on May 1st. Okay, so apply the same day as your last day of work or the day after. It's just easier because then you don't have to try to look at anything. You don't have to worry about trying to backdate anything. Your claim is effective as filed when filed. Okay? Sandra, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
If you don't have a full year to enter the amount for the preceding 12 months because you haven't been with the company for a full year, do they take account the income from a different job in your other state or not?
Good question. Not if it's from a different state. Now, what you might be able, that's where you may actually have to file in 2 different states, because you're going to get a portion from one state and then another portion from another. All right. Keeping in mind that if you end up in that situation, you may end up having to just sit on hold for a few hours and talk to a human in both states, because this is where you have to get those 2 completely independent states to kind of work together without them actually being able to talk to each other. All right. If you don't have a full year prior with JetBlue, it's going to go off of where you're based for the majority of that period and how much JetBlue paid during that period, paid you during that period. And then you can try to add your other out-of-state income there, but 9 out of 10 times they'll deny that extra income because they never got the money from it. Right? And they're going to refer you to the state where you were actually working for that income. All right.
Do you calculate that roughly?
Say that again.
Just to take JetBlue pay? Is there a way to calculate that over the sum? Or is there a calculator somewhere that I would just take JetBlue pay for the past 8 months or 7 months with JetBlue or a little bit more?
Yeah,
and then figure out somewhat what I would get on unemployment plus adding the 600, so I would get a better idea what I'd get.
So you can calculate how much JetBlue has paid in by pulling up your December 20th paycheck and looking under the year-to-date total. This is for people that have been here less than a year, okay? Pull up your December 20th paycheck, look under the year-to-date total for the total pay, and then pull up the April 20th paycheck and look at the same number and add the 2 together, and then divide it by 4 because it's based on quarters. And that's going to give you your average quarterly income. And then you can use that, and you can just Google like Massachusetts unemployment calculator or New York unemployment calculator, whatever state you're filing in, just Google their unemployment calculator. And then you'll at least have that quarterly income and that total 12-month income, and you can calculate it kind of based off of that. That just doesn't take into account the additional income that's a non-JetBlue income. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, Susan Lowe, you're up.
Hi, Wesley.
Hi.
So I applied. Actually, I have COVID leave starting May 1st. Yesterday was the last day of April that I worked. But I thought I had to go in and get everything set up so that they would be ready. So I've already set up my account on April 12th. but I'm not going to be making a claim until a week from Sunday, which will be in May. Do I have to call them? Do I have to do something since I'm not making claims for anything in April, but starting on May?
So in your situation, the worst thing that can happen is they're going to close your claim and you're going to have to refile. That's your absolute worst. Will you have to call them? I don't know, because I don't know if that's a situation where they would just let you reopen the previously filed claim, or if they would make you file a new one. And because you've had two of them so close to each other, the computer system may not have automatically approved the second one like it normally would. What you could do, though, is log in today and do the weekly claim thing where, it asks you all those questions. But instead of I'm sorry, Susan, are you in Massachusetts? What jurisdiction are you in?
I live south of the city. I actually live here. I'm a resident of the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
When you say jurisdiction, you talk about counties?
No, I'm talking about states, because that's the only thing that matters here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I live in Massachusetts.
Okay. So you're filing in Massachusetts.
Correct.
Excuse me.
I just opened it up. I haven't made any claims for, like, on April 12th, I think. On April 12th, I went out and set up my account. I have sent them my pay stubs and W-2, the alternate base information, and whatever, the third thing. It's like, they have all of my backup, which is another question later, but all of my backup, they have it.
Yep.
But I haven't filed. I don't even have anything on hold or open.
Well,
I don't have anything at all. It's just there.
So once you open the claim, that's considered a filing. Okay. So you have filed, but you haven't continued to file in between then and now. So what you can do just to make sure that the claim stays open is you can go in there and this is Massachusetts specific because this is how their system is set up. You can go in there, and where it says request benefits for the week, you click on that and it's on your homepage. It's a blue hyperlink, and you just click decline benefits for the week. That puts activity on the claim so that it stays open, and then you won't have to try to reopen, or if you do, it's just going to be a couple of clicks because it's going to be a weekly claim that reopens it. But then it won't be closed because you haven't been claiming.
So that's all right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yep. Well, it sounds to me like it's an easy fix because I don't want to have to send all that paperwork back again. It's, it's $8 every time I send it in. So I don't want, this is happiness. So thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Debbie Hazel.
Hey there. Hi there. This is so confusing, and I appreciate your time. So I live in California.
Okay.
Prior to coming to JetBlue less than a year ago, I was working in California.
Okay.
I worked in two bases. So I'm getting ready to file Boston because that's where I'm currently at, and that's where I started after JBU. If my case is closed in Boston, in Massachusetts, and they tell me wrong state, you have to go back to California. If they do that, do I use my original filing date, or have I lost those weeks?
It depends on the state, because again, all of this is going to be depending on those state rules. So if California allows you to backdate it, let me back up a little bit. Let's say that your last day of work was March 31st, and you filed in Boston or in Massachusetts on April 1st. And now today you find out that you got denied and you have to go file in California. Some states only allow you to go back 1 week. Other states allow you to go back to your last date of work. So if California allows you to go back to your last day of work, then yes, it would be backdated all the way back to March 31st. But if they say you can only go back a week, then it would only go back a week and you would have lost the weeks in between. So that's going to be something that's going to be determined by the state that you're filing in. And they will let you know that, okay? But again, you're dealing with two completely different governments that both have equal authority. So they do not have to recognize the fact that you filed an application in another state.
And the California job history was I left voluntarily to come to JetBlue. So will that interfere with my being eligible in California? Because I wasn't let go. It was a quit.
Under the CARES Act, with how things are going right now, I would venture to say no, that's not going to have any effect on it. Now, when you get into unemployment, and I guess this is just good information to have anyway, when you get into unemployment, there are three parties in an unemployment claim. There's you, the employee, there's the employer, and then there's the state, okay? They are three independent parties, and all three parties can object to your claim, okay? So under the CARES Act, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but your former California employer could object and throw it into appeal. All right. And if that happens, then you're going to have to go through the appeals process because it holds everything. All right. So that's just something that you're going to have to, I hate to say it this way, but wait and find out until after you do complete that filing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then Magdalene Guzman.
Okay, so my question is, I think it's the same as the lady before, but I was AO in JetBlue before I went into in-flight, and everything happened within less than a year ago. So I got based out of Boston, and then 6 months after I came to JFK. So would most of my monies will be from Boston or New York?
You did 6 months in both?
So yeah, so pretty much I'm in a year now. So I did 6 months in Boston and then now 6 months in New York.
Ooh, and you are currently in New York?
Yeah.
It's more than likely going to go off in New York.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then there was a write-in question about if your previous state or job paid more, even if it was less than a year, would it be beneficial to file in that other state and file interstate? Probably not. Because, and it's going to depend on how long ago that job was. But if it's more than 90 days, usually not. It's usually going to go on the most recent employment file within the last 90 days. All right. And then Brandy.
So I was in Boston for, I don't know, the last 3 years, and then I transferred to JFK in March. And I filed already in JFK, but I haven't heard anything back. It's only been a couple of weeks. But now I'm thinking, do I need to file in Boston instead?
So I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If you've already filed in one state, wait until you get the denial there to file in the other, because otherwise you could be running into a double recovery issue. Now, that being said, in the last meeting that we had, it sounded like JFK or New York was kind of just approving 99% of what was coming through. So it sounds like they're in this approve now, figure it out later mode, which could be convenient. It could also be scary when they finally get to the let's figure it out now mode. I would venture to say that your claim in JFK is going to come back as denied for wrong state because you don't have a long enough work history in New York, and they're going to make you file in Boston. But I would wait until they make that determination to take action. Because once you file in Massachusetts, it's typically a fairly quick process. You file, I filed on like a Friday. No, I filed on like a Saturday. And the next day on a Sunday, I had my determination. So it's all automated. And it's a fairly quick turnaround. It's just how many applications the computer needs to process in the 24-hour period. So yeah, I would wait till New York actually says something and then go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So I don't see any more hands raised. I've got a couple write-in questions that we will get to in a couple minutes. But one thing with initial filing is it can be kind of complicated because it's asking you to report your last day of work and whether or not you have any wages coming and things like that. Using PTO complicates the process. So if you don't have to use your PTO, don't use it, just save it and let it bank and leave it alone. Because if you use that PTO just to increase your payout, you're going to hurt yourself later on when you get into the weekly filings, and you could end up having to report that income in certain states as a vacation payout. In between the last meeting and now, I've actually read through Massachusetts state statutes regarding unemployment and what compensation they care about and which ones they don't. And PTO is considered vacation time under the statute. So just keep that in mind. But make sure that you're reporting your wages as it's stated on your paycheck stub, and make sure that you're accurately reporting your last day of work. This is for the initial filing because that could hang you up later on. That being said, we're going to move on to the weekly filing. For those of you that are already doing this, you kind of already know you have to file every week. So you make the initial claim and you say, hey, I'm unemployed, I need money. Here's how much I was making, give me my percentage. And the state comes back with a yes, no, or maybe. And then you kind of move from there. You then have to file every single week to continue the claim. So you can file every Sunday for the prior week. And it's a typical calendar week, so it's Sunday to Saturday. So for example, yesterday, you would have was your earliest availability to submit a continuing claim for the previous week, and that's when you get paid. So the pay is always a week behind the week that you're claiming. All right. So just make sure that you file every week. In some states, if you do not file for a week, they cannot go back in and do it for you. So for example, let's say you did not get around to filing this week, okay, for last week, and you realize it next Tuesday. Most states will not let you call unemployment and say, hey, I forgot to file last week. Can you file it for me? They're just going to say you forgot to file. You forfeited the benefits for that week. You're not going to get them. Now, it's not going to eat up a week of benefits, but you're just not going to get paid for that week. So make sure that you're filing every single week and that you're filing accurately. And if you think that you have made too much or whatever, then just decline the benefits and move on. For the state of Massachusetts, New York is a little different, and we'll talk about these little nuanced differences a little later on. All right. Whoever is labeled as iPad, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi. Quick question about, it's still obviously involved with the $600 and the unemployment, but with it coming to the deadline of trying to figure out if people want to take the summer off program, and of course they attached, you know, a lot of bennies to go with it, so to speak. My question is, because I see after a while you look on Facebook and follow and it gets confusing. If you do that program, if you take that summer off program, do you qualify for the unemployment? Like I was off for the month of April. So I'm presently collecting the unemployment right now, and I'm getting the $600 a week. But if I should choose to take this summer off program, am I still going to receive that dollar figure that I'm getting for my unemployment along with the $600 until July 31st?
So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions because I want to walk you through this so that everybody can kind of see how to analyze this. Okay. So sorry, but I'm gonna put you on the spot.
That's fine if it helps everyone, sure.
So if you're going with summer off, are you getting paid?
Yes.
Really?
Well, what I see, but that was where I was under the impression, you know, that you still, here's what I don't know what I thought now. I mean, after reading so many different things, so basically summer off means you take the summer off and that's it.
Right. So there's no pay associated with it, right? Because it's not the paid COVID leave program that they rolled out first. It's just the summer off.
Okay.
Right. So summer off is unpaid leave. Okay.
Okay.
So there's no pay involved.
All right.
Now,
So
the next question is that leave voluntary?
it is voluntary.
It is. Now, under normal circumstances, that would automatically disqualify you. Okay, because under normal circumstances, a voluntary leave or a resignation, unless you can prove hostile work environment, which is next to impossible, is an automatic disqualifier for unemployment.
Okay.
But we have the CARES Act, and the CARES Act has kind of changed that a little bit, because what it said is if you are on a COVID-19, and I'm just going to call it COVID instead of using the number,
Yeah.
but if you're on a COVID-related leave, if it's voluntary, then you can still qualify for unemployment. Okay, so that takes care of that automatic disqualifier. So the question comes down to, are you getting paid? No. Is it a qualifying COVID-related leave? Yes.
Yes.
So does that make you eligible for unemployment? Yes.
Okay.
That's the analytical steps that you're going to take when you're approaching these.
Yeah.
Your number one question is always going to be, am I getting paid? Okay. And if the answer to am I getting paid is no, then you may qualify for unemployment. If the answer to am I getting paid is yes, then you have to ask another question, which is, am I getting paid what I usually do? Okay. 9 out of 10 times right now, that answer is no.
Correct.
Right? So now you may be eligible for unemployment. Now here's kind of a little bit of a caveat for you. If you were on reserve before this, okay, so you were guaranteed 75 hours, and you're on reserve now, and you're still guaranteed 75 hours, there's no reduction of hours, which means you should not be filing a claim for a reduction in hours because you're still getting your same guarantee.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And that's the only time that it kind of gets fishy.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, yeah, because I was trying to really go back and forth about that. I've been here at JetBlue a long time, you know, and it was, you know, hearing everybody's discussions and what to do and what not to do, you know, and then they offered all those. I mean, again, is it really great? But for other family members or people, all the things that they offered to us, you know, that was kind of a nice,
right.
You know, a nice added bonus, I guess, you know.
Yep.
But
yeah, it was, but it doesn't count as pay. And so you're still good.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And as long as I'm talking really quick. I saw some people also were talking about, is this monies that are coming up, is it from gross or net? Because when you print off the paperwork that came, you know, that was sent, it tells you that it looks at the one column where it breaks down all 4 quarters for the year. It says that it is a gross income, but that's not the gross income. It is net. And
so
I'm seeing a lot of
it's actually not net either. It's this weird in-between number, and we're going to talk about that later.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I had someone reach out to me from Crew Relations today with a phone call. So I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah. So, and I've also been in contact with payroll, who's trying to figure all this out too. And we have a working theory. And so we'll talk about all that a little bit later. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
There is someone with the name of iPhone with your hand raised.
Hi, I'm Justice. I have a quick question about basically residencies. So you guys know how we are. We live in one place, we work in another. My question is, if JetBlue has my Florida address that I'm a resident of, yet I live in New York City, when they ask, do I live in New York, what should I put in order to not screw myself over? Once again, JetBlue has my Florida address and I live in New York City, and I don't have that address on any of my work paper information at all.
So, I hate to do it this way, but it's going to kind of call you out and put you on the spot a little bit. You have larger issues than unemployment right now because you just told me that you live in New York, yet you're not paying New York state taxes because your address is in Florida, and that's what JetBlue has. So you're either living in New York or you're living in Florida, but you can't just have the Florida address for tax purposes, or it is considered tax evasion. So that's my little warning to you to kind of evaluate that, make a personal decision, figure that out, and then determine whether or not you need to correct JetBlue. Now, on the other hand, on the unemployment side, it doesn't matter where you live with unemployment. In our case, what matters is where that 2% was paid into. Now, I know that you're mentioning question about, do you live in New York? For the purposes of that question, if you can honestly say no, that you are living in Florida, then say no, because your domicile, it's called a domicile, then you're domiciled in Florida. But if the only reason you have that Florida address is to get around the New York state taxes, then answering no could get you in more trouble there.
Gotcha.
All right. So that's kind of something that you have to evaluate on your tax situation. And because of the complications with it, I would recommend talking to a financial planner or talking to a licensed tax person that's familiar with New York's tax structure to determine your answer to that question. I'm going to take a minute and give a plug to Navigator. You can all call Navigator, and the number for Navigator is 866-529-1675. Again, that's 866-529-1675. That's the phone number to JetBlue Navigator. You can call them and you can talk to a financial planner for free for 1 hour. So as you're working through some of these questions that may be helpful, it is completely free. It is included in our benefits. Whether you are on the JetBlue medical plan or not, you have access to Navigator, so I would encourage that you use that. I'm sorry that I can't give you a more direct answer, but I don't want to give you one that's going to lead to further tax implications and legal issues for you later on, okay? Leslie.
Hi, I just have a question. I've been on the unemployment since the beginning of April, and I chose to have taxes taken out of my my money. So basically, the $600, I didn't get it from the start because I had unemployment before April 5th. But when I did start getting it, like the third week or so of April, it never came as $600. It came as $540, which I think was like the taxes taken out of it. But then the last 2 weeks, it's been only $525. So it seems like, so did they just start taking more taxes out, or what's happening there? Do you know?
Without looking at your payment history portal, I don't know if I can actually answer that or accurately answer that.
Okay.
I am in a very similar situation with you. I had state taxes taken out and federal taxes taken out. And I didn't get my first check because it was before it was actually enacted and things like that. Here's the nice thing. So, well, it's a double-edged sword. It's kind of nice and it's kind of bad. Every one of us is going to have to file a tax return in the state that you are getting paid your unemployment from. So for example, I am domiciled in Nevada. So on paper, I live in Nevada. I have an apartment in Minnesota because I go to school in Minnesota, but I am based in Massachusetts. Now, I have a portion of this year where I will have income from a company in the state of Minnesota that's connected to school. I also have unemployment coming from Massachusetts. So I will have to file 3 tax returns: the federal tax return, the Minnesota tax return, and the Massachusetts tax return, because you have to file a tax return on the money you made in that state if that state has state taxes. Okay, and that's another issue that I'll get more in depth with in a couple minutes. So the nice part about that is typically using only unemployment income, you're never going to make enough to actually owe taxes. So when you file that return in that state, you'll get those withholdings back. So if it's a matter of you can survive with a little bit more taken out right now, honestly, I would say don't worry about it, because you're going to spend more time sitting on hold with unemployment to get an answer to it than what it's worth, especially if you can live without it until the end of the year, because you'll get it back through the form of a state tax return.
Well, it was only like a $15 drop in the last 2 weeks. It went from like $540 to $525. But I was just wondering, I kind of thought like maybe they just took more taxes out. Like they figured out the first 3 weeks they weren't taking enough tax. So then they're like, okay, but it didn't happen to the actual unemployment part of it. It only happened to the $600.
Yeah, and that could be very possible. And so since it's only a $15 drop and you can live without it and figure it out at the end of the year when you do your tax return. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So I see 3 hands raised. I'm going to hold off for just a minute because we have some write-in questions that I want to take and make sure that people are getting heard. Applied the first week of April and it's still pending. New to New York, but was Florida beforehand. Is that why it's still pending? Probably. The short answer to that is probably, because you don't have enough work history in the state of New York for them to finish processing the claim. And so JetBlue is also responding to wage requests and things like that. And there's going to be this portion where it doesn't quite match up because of your varied work history and basis. Should you resubmit? Absolutely not. It's only going to compound the problem. What you could do, and you're not going to like this answer, is call them and sit on hold and wait to be answered. But this is one of those situations where it would be worth calling and sitting on hold. I know it's nerve-wracking and frustrating, but that really is your best option right now. Got the $600 on Friday and was told it was a COVID payment. You mentioned that you applied to the PUC but heard nothing yet. Well, you just heard from it. You're getting your $600. ADA leave starting May 7th. I'm going to combine, there's a lingering question about how does FMLA affect unemployment? How does the ADA affect unemployment? Things like that. You are not on FMLA because of COVID. So you cannot, in good faith, tell the government that your leave is COVID related. Same thing with an ADA leave. I mean, unless you are diagnosed with COVID-19 or you are caring for someone who is almost terminally ill and their doctor has deemed you as their primary caregiver and that FMLA is somehow related directly to COVID, then you cannot tell the government that you're out because of COVID, because you're not. And that would just be an outright lie. And something that I said in the last meeting, and I've said it to I don't know how many people since a lot of this has started, is the government can lie to us, we cannot lie to them. It is a one-way street. if you lie to the government, they will come back after you. Not only will they hit you with recapture, they will hit you with civil penalties and possibly unemployment fraud, which is a criminal penalty and a felony in most states. You don't want to take that risk. So if you're out on ADA leave and or FMLA leave or a personal leave of absence would fall into this category as well. Those are not COVID related leaves. Those are separate leaves. And so you would not qualify for a COVID related unemployment claim. Another write-in was, what does ineligible, not denied mean under determination? I'm going to attempt to break this down more than those 3 words without talking in a circle. But it means that you're ineligible for the time period that you've claimed, but your claim is not denied, so you can submit another one. Typically, that's going to be for a specific period claimed. So if that's a Massachusetts one or a New York one, either one, this should apply to any state. You should be able to log into your portal and still claim benefits for a specific week that's outside of that ineligible range. So for example, if that ineligible not denied was for the first week of April, then you can log in after the second week of April and claim benefits for the second week of April, because your claim isn't denied, you were just ineligible for that first week. All right, not if that makes sense. Yes, no, deer in the headlights. Yeah, okay. Can you receive the $600 a week or unemployment when on leave? We kind of already answered that. The answer is yes. Can you still get the $600 a week if you're not eligible for unemployment? Yes and no, it depends. So in some states, they have separated it. In others, they have combined it. So if you are ineligible for unemployment, like your claim is denied, just flat out denied, then you may be able to submit an alternate application for the PUA assistance, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. That is the $600 a week. Now that's not guaranteed because it's state by state, and it completely depends on how each state administers its bucket of money. But you can ask. The only way to really get that answer is to sit on hold with unemployment and talk to them. All right? If you are approved for an unemployment claim and you file for your weekly benefit and you are then ineligible for that week, you are not eligible for the additional $600. All right, so in order to get that $600 when you are also eligible for unemployment, you have to be eligible to receive at least $1 in unemployment benefits for that week in order to get the additional $600. All right, nod if that makes sense, shake if it doesn't. Okay. Will a letter of verification speed up your claim if you are pending? Who should I send it to? Is it normal to still be pending after 5 weeks? Little, I don't know, newsflash here. None of this is normal. And so we're going to run into issues like this. No, it's not normal to still be pending after 5 weeks. However, a majority of the country is out of work, and everyone is trying to talk to the same 10 people in a government office. Think of what happens when we have a really bad IROP and there's 2 people in crew services overnight and New York just went to hell in a handbasket and no one now has a hotel, right? Same concept, different phone number. Give them some time, they will get back to you. Will a letter of verification speed it up? Probably not, because you're going to send that verification letter to whoever you want to send it to, which I would imagine is crew pay. In our situation, you're going to send it to them. They're going to take 3 to 5 business days filling it out. They're going to mail it. It's going to take 2 days to get to unemployment. And then it's going to take unemployment another 5 weeks to look at your verification letter. And by then you've already sat on hold for 2 hours and cleared up the issue. So no, it's not normal, but it is expected for this current situation. Sit on hold and talk to them because it's pending for a reason. You need to figure out what that issue is. Don't just keep overloading them with a bunch of information. They don't want to look at 15 different pages that show how we were paid in the last 10 years. They don't care, okay? They want to look at eligibility criteria and they want to be able to say yes or no and move on, all right? And what if you prematurely filed? We kind of already talked about that a little bit earlier. If you prematurely filed, log into your system for, let's say this week, let's say you're supposed to file next week is when you should have filed. Just log in for this week and decline the benefits if that's an option and move on. If that's not an option, just don't submit any claim for this week and try to claim when you should through the weekly claim portal. You may have to submit a new application if there hasn't been activity on the claim in a while. Sometimes that is automated, sometimes that requires a human. If it requires a human, you're going to have to sit on hold and talk to them. Why is Florida taking longer than everyone else? Well, back to that whole 52 different governments thing. They're their own government. They have their own way of doing things. This is kind of sarcastic, but why do they take so long to count the ballots every 2 years? Florida has an issue counting and processing paperwork. We've known this since Al Gore. Don't be surprised today. Right now they are backlogged about 8 weeks. So you're going to be sitting for a while. The nice thing is your money is protected. You're going to get back pay. You might not get that back pay until next year at this rate, but you're going to get your back pay. I hate to put it that way. That's just kind of the reality of it. They are so backlogged in Florida, it's not even funny. And the last number that I heard from 2 days ago is about 8 weeks now. You're self-employed. Can you file for unemployment under self-employment? Yes and no, it depends. Since you have a real job, also, by the way, I have plenty of my own history where I was self-employed, so don't take that as me diminishing being self-employed. But I always referred to when I was on a W-2 as my real job and my self-employment as kind of my fun side hustle. So because you have a real job and you have a W-2, most states are not allowing you to also include your self-employment income. They're only going off of your W-2 income. And that's because you don't pay the 2% on your self-employment income. So they're not going to let you double dip, and they're not going to let you dip into a bucket when you have another one that you can pull from. The only way that I've been seeing unemployment income being considered is when your unemployment income is your sole source of income. Okay, and so if you are strictly self-employed, and I think I mixed up some terms there, but when you are strictly self-employed, then you can file for unemployment based on your self-employment income. That was kind of a lot. Everybody still with me? Yeah? No? All right. Now we'll go back to the raised hands. Magdalene Guzman, you're up.
Hi, just want to go back to the filing weekly when you were speaking earlier about that. So the Department of Labor, they have like a new system now to submit your weekly claims. And I realized
Magdalene,
yesterday, yeah?
I'm going to pause you 1 minute. Two questions. One, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes.
Okay. Two, what state are we talking about?
New York.
Okay.
New York.
Continue.
So I was able to go on the new website and I claimed, but then I logged in later on and it went to the old website and it said that I needed to claim. So I feel like I claimed twice. So I don't know what I just did.
Okay. So in theory, the two systems should be migrated at some point, and one of those is going to get canceled out. Okay. And it's probably going to get canceled out by the person that has to cut the check. All right. Now, that being said, let's say that you typically get 800 a week because you get the 600 and 200 from unemployment. Okay. Let's use some easy numbers. Let's say you get 800 a week, and all of a sudden you get 2 payments for 800 in the same week. You just hit double recovery. Okay. You have to send $800 back to the state. Don't go, yes, this is extra, and go out and buy a Switch. Okay? Call unemployment and say, you double paid me. And give them $800 back, or tell them to not issue a check in the following week. There's a couple different recovery options that they have. Sometimes they'll just say, okay, well, I'm going to put a note in here, so you're going to automatically be denied next week. Now you've got your 2 weeks. Okay? So, but call them if you end up double paid. All right? And Grimaldi?
That's me. Hi. Thank you for answering the question. It was like the 3-part question that you first answered. Appreciate that. Now, in my case, I filed, like I said, in the first week of April. I bypassed the last week that I was actually employed by JetBlue by the time that I applied in New York. And I've been pending ever since. It was brought to my attention that they were calling people, and another crew member gave me the actual number. And of course, I missed the call because it was an 888 number for New York, and I was expecting a 347 or whatever. So now I'm basically here just right next to my phone waiting for another phone call. Now, you did say that I answered my own question by the COVID payment, receiving that $600 on Friday. So my question now basically is, I've been filing every single week, although it's in pending status and in zeros. Do I keep filing for that COVID payment every week, although it's in zeros? Okay, awesome. Now, you did mention just a minute ago that we will get back paid at some point once it's approved. Should I just basically keep applying for the COVID payment every Friday and then just let it be like that up until it gets approved or it's finally denied? Okay, awesome. Yeah, that was my question.
Okay, so, and I'm just going to kind of piggyback on that, and this is for everybody. If you can live with not having that money right now, okay, then let these state agencies get through the chaos that they are going through right now. Just keep filing and let your back pay build, and eventually you are going to get it. So if you're in a financial situation where you can afford to do that, stop stressing yourself out. You're going to get it. Okay? It's just taking a little bit of time to get it. But file every week, because if you don't file, it could be a waiver of benefits for that week, depending on the state that you're in. Okay? So always, always, always make sure you're filing if you are eligible for benefits in that week. Now, if you hit a situation where it's like, you, I don't know, worked 40 hours that week for some reason, and you got paid for it and all of that, and you know that you're not going to be eligible for unemployment that week, and you don't file, it's not a big deal, because if you were to file, you would just get denied anyway for that week. So, but in the weeks that you are eligible for benefits, make sure that you're filing to preserve your claim. All right? Kelly Murph.
Hi. Just want to say thank you for doing this. Also, while you were setting up, I was scrolling through the JetBlue in-flight crew members page, and someone posted a story from CNN stating that New York does not have enough money, or they have run out of money already, says the governor.
Sounds typical.
Have you heard anything about this morning?
So
I'm assuming the story was from a news briefing from the governor from this morning.
So New York has been out of money since, I don't know, 5 years ago, and somehow they find money to pay for everything that they need. I would take that with a grain of salt, okay? Right now, and this is going to get into some political issues, and I'm going to try to stay away from them as much as possible. So I'm giving you how this works, okay? and I'm emphasizing this is how the process works, not whether it's right or wrong. Governors need money for their state, so they request money, extra money and relief money from the federal government. The federal government can't just sign away the money, okay? The president doesn't have that authority because the power of the purse is vested with the House of Representatives. So that all gets converted into requests for fundings, which then gets aggregated by the Congressional Budget Office. The Congressional Budget Office puts out a proposal to Congress, specifically the House of Representatives, and says, hey, this is what we recommend to meet this financial demand. That then gets turned into a bill, and then it has to work its way through Congress, and then up to the president, and then the president has to sign it, and then it goes to the Treasury Secretary, and then the Treasury Department has to disperse it. Okay? That is a long, drawn-out process. It does not happen overnight, right? So, in the meantime, I think the bigger question is, well, what happens while that process is going on, right? And the answer to that is the states and the federal government live on credit cards. So they take out loans to meet their immediate deficiencies, and they keep paying unless it's a limited grant-funded only program. So in this situation, they should still be accepting claims. They should still be paying it out. That's not a problem for you to worry about. That is a problem for the legislative and executive branches of the states that are saying they don't have the money. All right? You need to keep filing, because also the more filings that go through, the more money that state is going to get in the next appropriations bill. Does that kind of answer your question?
That answers everything I needed to know.
Okay.
Keep filing.
Yes, keep filing. Donna.
Thank you for doing this. I do appreciate it. I have a question. I have the 5-month leave starting May 1st. Okay. And my question is, when do we claim the money that JetBlue has given us on the 8th of every month? Do we do it weekly? Do we divide it in 4? Do we do it the first week? And then, you know, because the money they're giving me, I fly higher hours. So it's basically a week's pay for me. 30, you know, the 34 hours or whatever it is.
So I'm going to combine two of these issues. One of them is going to be the COVID leave COVID leaves pay. And the other is going to be the Blue Bucks, because Blue Bucks is money, so it needs to be reported somewhere. And this is where we kind of run into a limitation, so bear with me. Let's do Blue Bucks first. Blue Bucks are for the first quarter of the year. All right, because it's for January, February, and March. So if it came from a time period before your claim date, you're going to report it in this line where it's something to this effect. Did you have any income that you have not previously reported? That's where it's going to be reported. All right. There should be an explanation box, something where you can explain it away. And you're going to say that it is for a performance bonus that predates your claim. And then I would add in there, it's from your performance from January, February, and March. That way, when it gets kicked to a human, they can see that it's not pay for current work. All right, but it does need to get reported. Now, on the COVID leaves, and Sandra, I see your hand, so just a minute. On the COVID leaves, there's a couple different ways to do this. So New York is the easiest, so I'm going to tackle that first. If you are filing in New York, divide it by 4. If that amount is below I think it's $504 a week, and it says it right in the question. So just double check that when you do your weekly filing. You're going to divide it by 4. If it's below the 504, then you can answer no, because the question is, did you get paid more than $504 this week? Okay, so that's how you report it in New York. Now let's go to Massachusetts, where it's much more complicated. Massachusetts wants to know hours per day or hours per week, or however you want to phrase it. So you have this piece called the exclusionary amount, all right? And you're going to have to do a little bit of research to look that up, because it's different for everybody, because benefit amounts are different, and I'm not going to tackle that. Just Google like how to determine my Massachusetts unemployment exclusion amount, and you'll get a ton of information on how you can calculate that. If your COVID pay is over that exclusionary amount, your leave pay is over that exclusionary amount, and it's high enough, it could just disqualify you for that week or for a single week, okay? In some cases, it might be enough to disqualify you every week if you were to spread it out every week, okay? So for example, let's say that if you made more than $200 a week, $200 or more a week, you would automatically be disqualified for benefits that week, and your COVID leave pay is an $800 check. Well, if you divide that by the weeks, you're going to be right at the 200, so you're going to be dequalified for the entire month, right? But it's not actually pay for work in that month. Follow me? So there's nothing that says that you can't just report it all in one week. So then you're choosing to be dequalified for 1 week instead of 4. Because you're going to report an $800 payment in the week of the pay period, of the pay date. You follow me? Now, if you want to break it down to the daily amount or the weekly amount, I'm going to give you a formula, but I'm going to give you a formula that is making math easy. Okay? So it's the hours of pay multiplied by 12 divided by 52. And then divided by 5. That is going to be your daily hourly credit that you would report if you want to break it down by day. And the way that comes up is payroll is always calculated on an annual basis. Well, an annual basis is 12 months, okay? So if you get that paycheck for May, that's only one of 12. So we need to aggregate it to the annual pay, which is why you multiply it by 12. Now our real question is, how much am I getting a week? Well, there's 52 work weeks in a year. So now you take that number and you divide it by 52. That is your weekly hourly credit. It's your average hourly credit per week. And then you divide it by 5, and that gives you your daily credit, because there's 5 work days in a week. So this is where we have to do a little bit of work, because we don't get paid like normal people. Okay, we don't have a normal work week. But in the real world, a normal work week is 5 days. All right. So did you message that out? So we're going to chat out the formula, and it's hours paid multiplied by 12 divided by 52. That number is your average weekly credit under the leave that you took. Divide that number by 5, and that is your average daily credit. So if you're in a state where it says, how many hours a day are you getting paid for your leave? You're going to use that daily credit, that last number. If it's a how many hours this week, then you're going to use the weekly credit number, which is after you divide it by 52. All right. Now, if you do that calculation and you take the total hours paid and divide it by 4, they're going to be slightly different. And then you'll see kind of why you aggregate up and then bring it back down. All right, because there's 52 weeks in a year, which is not a solid 4 weeks per month. It's actually 4 1/3. And so calculating it with the formula that I gave you accurately accounts for that extra 3rd week per month. All right, and that's where a discrepancy could come in, but it more evenly spreads it out for you. Okay, everybody with me? Yeah, no? Okay. Sandra.
Yes. It was just to reiterate something. Earlier you mentioned if you don't have a full year, take your December 20th paycheck and your April 20th paycheck, add them, and then divide by 4. Right?
Yep. Yes.
So, and then to that, do you know, or I would have to put this in the calculation box, but do you know what percentage of that amount is paid out? And then second question is, do you have to file separately to receive the $600 weekly?
So I do not know the exact percentage because it does vary by state. So just Google it. You'll get a quick answer there. To answer your filing separately for the 600, no. If you file for unemployment and you get denied, then yes, you may have to file separately for the 600. But if you file and you get approved for unemployment, you are automatically approved for the additional 600. All right?
Okay. So even though one would not necessarily have a full year of employment with JetBlue for me in the states of Massachusetts, it would just reduce the unemployment payout, right?
Correct. Well, maybe. It depends on how they calculate it. So if they divide it across quarters, then yes, it would reduce your payout. If they say, well, you've only worked 9 months out of the last 12, so we're only going to consider 3 quarters instead of 4, then no, it's not going to reduce your amount. So you could calculate it either way.
Okay.
So a calendar quarter is 3 months, and it goes on the prior 4 calendar quarters, the prior 4 completed calendar quarters. So for example, a calendar quarter is January, February, March. So if you applied in March, you're not getting a calculation based on January, February, and March. You're actually getting a calculation based off of the prior calendar year. So January and February don't even count at all.
Oh,
because it's not a completed quarter, so it doesn't go into the calculation. So those are the little nuances that you kind of have to pay attention for, or attention to, I'm sorry. So if you've been working 9 months, then divide the number of months that you've been working by 3, and you're going to use an alternate base period calculation, and that's going to get you your accurate quarterly pay. Does that make sense? Because
okay. However, however, you were saying earlier, and I may misunderstand, I'm sorry, it takes into consideration the prior year. So my hire date is September. It would give me only 1 quarter to base it on. It would not be sufficient. Right?
Sandra, when did you file?
I haven't filed yet.
Okay, so then you would also get January, February, and March. So you actually have 7 months. So you have 2 quarters. You have 2 completed quarters.
Okay. I just got confused because earlier you were saying it takes into consideration from the prior year.
Yeah,
which
and
in 2019 I would have had only one quarter. It
right.
would be the
So
last quarter. It would be only Q4.
so that was me oversimplifying just to make it a little easier to understand and follow. The exact specifics of each individual are going to be slightly different, especially when you have not worked for JetBlue for longer than a year, because there's very limited information that unemployment has.
Okay.
So that's why I mentioned, earlier that it was over a year. But at the end of the day, since you're less than a year, it's going to be calculated a little different because you're going to go into your alternate base period and they're going to use that calculation. You'll get information on that after you apply and a determination is sent through, and it'll show you all of that. And then they'll say, if you disagree, submit this form with verification, and then you send that back in.
Okay. So they're not going to calculate only the last quarter of 2019. So it's going to be Q4 of 2019 and Q1 of 2020.
Say that again.
So the unemployment, because my hiring was last September of 2019. Right. So that means there is Q4 as a full quarter of 2019.
Yes.
And there is in 2020 Q1.
Correct.
So will they take that into consideration, the quarter in 2020? That's my question, because if they're only going to base my unemployment of Q19 of the last quarter in 2019, then I might as well just withdraw my selection because I won't have enough.
No,
income.
You're fine. It will calculate your first quarter of 2020. So you'll get Q4 of last year and Q1 of this year into that calculation. And then you'll also get partial calculation for the months in Q2 of 2020 because it's not a completed quarter, but that's going to be what's called an alternate base period. So you may have to fill out additional paperwork for it. That's the caveat. But you can get it counted.
Okay.
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 All right.
Thank you.
And then Susan's iPad.
Oh, hi. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. So I got a little confused when you went back to the blue box and said that you had to report previously unreported income. And I've been out since mid-March because I have a child with health issues. So I just decided to stay home. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got my last check for March on this 20th check, but it was for March, so I didn't claim it for my mass income tax. Was that right? I mean, for the unemployment, was that right in doing that? Am I making myself, I don't know if I'm understanding, I'm making myself clear.
I want to say yes. I just want to make sure that the hours that you were paid for predate your claim date.
They do, completely, because I didn't start, I erroneously claimed in the state I lived and withdrew that claim and didn't file in Massachusetts until mid-April. So I've twice filed for benefits. I'm still pending. But yes, they predated everything that I did.
Yep, so I would say that you're okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was it. Okay.
Debbie Hazel.
Okay, I got my head screwed on straight because I'm a little bit confused because I'm a multi-state person. So in regards to the federal $600, if I'm denied in Massachusetts, which according to the information you're giving me is highly likely that I'll be possibly be denied and I have to go file in another state, will I lose the opportunity to claim to receive the federal for those weeks that I would have otherwise been able to capture? Because if I lose that, there really is no point in taking this 5-month leave, is the way I'm seeing things.
So that's going to go into the issue of federalism, you know, the 52 different governments, because it depends on how that state is going to calculate it. If that state will preserve your right to claim for the weeks that predate the claim in that state, then yes, you would get the money. If that state says, no, here it's from date of claim forward, or we're only going to go back a week, then the answer is no. So that's more of a state-specific question, and you're just going to have to wait and see how they handle it when you file. Or
not
call.
take the chance and continue to work until until October.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm looking at either Florida or California if Massachusetts rejects me. So highly likely that there'll be a significant delay in processing time with Florida, and highly likely that there'll be a catch in California since I left voluntarily to come to JetBlue.
There might be. There's no guarantee on that, but there may be. And so, yeah. But yes, that's essentially correct.
All right. I appreciate the honesty. I don't like the news, but I appreciate the information because that's information's power.
Yeah, it's, you know, and I mentioned this earlier, there's going to be questions where the answers are just not what we like. But I also think that that's, like you said, information is power. So it at least stops the back and forth and the internal debate and the, am I doing this right? Am I going to get in trouble? Things like that. So
then if I have requested to voluntarily sign up for the summer off, I can send an email to unrequest that. It's not too late.
Correct. You mean today?
Yeah, like when we get done, hello, JetBlue. I think I made a big old boo-boo.
Yeah, and you would send that to CR Resources.
Okay. Is anyone else on here in the same position? Really not sure if they should be doing this or not. Or am I just, because I'm so new, I think I'm in this unique situation.
I can tell you just from the last session that I did, there's quite a few people that are in that situation. There's been a lot of debate of, should I take the paid leave or should I just go unpaid to make my life a little easier when I claim? Trust me, you're not the only one in that situation.
I can wait for my money, but I cannot do without my money.
Exactly. Right. Same here.
All right. Thank you. I'll let you go on to somebody else. I appreciate it.
All right. I'm going to do 2 more of the raised hands. So right now we've got Susan Lowe, Leslie, Veronica, and Grimaldi. I'm going to get Susan and Leslie, and then I'm going to pause and take some more of the write-in questions because now that queue has filled up. And then I'll come back to you, Veronica and Grimaldi. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to leave you sitting for a minute. Susan.
Hello again.
Hello.
So this is I just got a lot of questions answered about the other timing, but the COVID-19, I'm on leave for May. COVID-19 pay does not come until June 8th. So for May, there was no discussion. I don't have to report what hasn't been paid to me, or am I reporting what I know they're going to give me?
You do not have to report what has not been paid to you because you are not actually working.
Okay, so let's just say I do not receive the next COVID leave. I hope I can get the 3 months, but the 1 month, but say I don't receive and I go back to work on June 8th. It's just water under the dam. It's just like, what do you do with that? Because technically I'm being paid on May 8th for my COVID pay, on June 8th rather, for my COVID pay for May.
I see what you're saying because our leave pay is coming a month late.
Yes. And it's going to go like that all the way through. So say.
Right.
Like the COVID
so
pay
in that, I'm going to backtrack on what I said earlier. I would report it in May because you know you're going to get paid for it. So do either the weekly or the daily calculation that I gave you and report it in May because you don't want to run into the situation that you just mentioned of getting to June and now you're not claiming, but now you got paid. And so you have run into double recovery and it's always better to self-disclose.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry for the answer earlier. I somewhere in my analysis missed that the pay was a month late. But yeah, so reported in the month that the pay will come for. So reported in May, even though you're getting paid in June.
And then estimate what the taxes will be?
No, you don't have to do any of that because I believe you're reporting hours worked, not necessarily the dollar amount.
Okay. All right. I got
Also, you. I believe you report your gross. I believe it asks you for your gross. And this could vary by state, so just read the questions carefully.
Okay.
You know, we all went through training where they hounded us, read the question twice and answer it once. Same concept, different computer system. Read the question twice, answer it once, and move on. All right? So read it very carefully and report what it's asking you to report. So if it's gross, just take your hourly rate and multiply it by the number of hours that you're getting paid and report that pay.
Gotcha.
Okay. And you're going to do the calculation on that to report it just like you would to report the hours. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I would do the hour breakdown first and then figure out what that weekly hourly credit is and then multiply that by your pay rate to report it. That would just make your life easier.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a quick question, and you can nod if you're in agreement because there's 32 people. But if I were to turn that formula into like an Excel spreadsheet where you can put your own numbers in, would you guys want that? Because then I can just email it out to you. All right, sounds good. I will get that done. That's a fairly easy thing for me to do. So I'll go ahead and get that done and I'll email it out to you. And before we get done, I'm going to give you some contact information. I've actually set up a whole separate email for me to answer these questions because if you email my personal email or my school email, it's going to get lost and I don't want that to happen. So I'll give you my actual contact information when we get towards the end of the meeting, okay? And I'll go ahead and get that spreadsheet out to you. Leslie.
Hi, when you were talking about the reporting the COVID leave in New York, you said it's very easy, divided by 4 weeks, and then you can answer no because you won't get paid more than $504 per week. But on the New York, when you go to file every week, it doesn't have a state. It only asks you like, you know, how many days did you work this week? How many days did you work? Did you make more than $504 this week? And then it asks you, did you get any vacation pay or holiday pay? It doesn't have anywhere for you to actually divide it by 4 and put an actual amount in on the New York claim.
So the directions for that were not in the claim form itself, but they were in like the handbook, and that's what their representatives have confirmed when people have called in. Frank, nod if I got that right, because that was one of our huge pieces in the last meeting was it's not written in the form. That's how claimants were instructed to do it through the handbook and through calling in and talking to representatives. So I just saved you a 3-hour on-hold call.
So in your like basically you're divided in a 4 just for yourself, and then since it doesn't, like for me, I only had the 1 month, so it's like dividing the $612 or whatever by 4, which definitely is not going to be more than $504 per week. So basically, I just would check the no box every week that I didn't make more than $504.
Okay, let me simplify this for you. If your paycheck for leave is less than $2,016 and you are in New York, then you don't have to report it because you can say no to the 504 question.
Oh, okay. That makes
right?
sense.
Because 504 times 4 is 2016. So if your paycheck is less than $2,016, then you can just say no, right?
Okay. And so to reiterate on, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, the woman that was on there before you. So if I don't get what you said, just want to make sure it's right. I'm in JFK, but if I don't get awarded the COVID leave for June, but then I get that paycheck for June 8th from the company, do I have to report it? I will have to report it in May, right?
Correct. So you're reporting it in May. Yep.
But since I don't make more, it just doesn't apply. Like I don't have to put anything.
Correct. So if it, right, because, and the caveat there is New York defines how many days did you work as how many days did you physically show up to the company that you work for and perform actual work. And because you never actually showed up and you're under New York State's definition, this is only applicable to New York. Okay? Because of how New York defines work, you don't have to report the hours.
Okay.
But if the money exceeds $504 in a week or $2,016 in a month, then you have to report it. Okay. So it's one or the other.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go to some of the write-in questions real quick. There's a question about, is it a problem if it's a voluntary leave? We already answered that. Because of the CARES Act, the answer is no, as long as the voluntary leave is directly related to COVID. A personal leave of absence because you want to go work as part of a below deck crew is not a COVID related leave. So no, you can't get unemployment while you're working on a yacht. How do you know if you applied correctly on the old or new system? If you get money, you did it right. Where do you go to apply for online pandemic assistance? If you are approved for unemployment, you've automatically applied for the pandemic assistance as well. If you are denied unemployment, so always start with applying for unemployment. If you are denied unemployment, then you have to call the unemployment office and ask them to process your application. I do not believe there's an online application for it yet. I could be wrong with the rollout of the new system, but right now it's a phone call that you have to make. If you have a partially filed claim and it's telling you to call them, do what they say and call them. I can't give you any other information than that because I don't have access to log in and look at your claim. If it's because it's partially filed or prematurely filed, I would imagine it's partially filed because there's no last date of work in there. If you're a line holder and you take the summer off, okay, we're going to go back to this analysis. Are you getting paid? The answer is no, because you're taking the summer off. Are you taking the summer off through a program that's related to COVID? The answer is yes, which means you qualify for unemployment. Submit your claim. Summer off issues if you're on reserve, it doesn't matter. You went from 75 to 0, so you still qualify. Is there a way after the initial application to have taxes taken out? Yes, in every state you are able to go into your unemployment portal. There should be somewhere in there along payments or processing or something like that. And you can change your tax withholding, and you're going to want to make sure that you take out both state and federal, because you will end up owing federal because unemployment's not your only income for the year, but you'll get everything that you paid to the state back. ADA question. I'm going to read the exact wording so I don't have to worry about doing the wrong thing if I get accepted to the pandemic check. If you are out because of an ADA issue, you are not on a COVID leave. Coincidence is not causation. All right? And this is going to sound kind of harsh, but I want to drive this home, because if you answer that you are on a COVID-related leave and you are not, that is fraud. That is a felony. That carries a minimum of a year in prison because it's a felony. It's not worth the risk. Plus, if you do that, you can have your passport revoked and you can be denied access to Canada. And one of the requirements of our job is that we can qualify for travel to all other foreign countries that do not require a visa. So don't risk your job and your future and your life for $600. It's not worth it. So on that note, Yes, you have to worry about doing the wrong thing, because if you're out on an ADA issue, you're not out because of COVID. So don't go in to the PUA or the pandemic check application process and say, I'm on leave because of COVID, because you aren't. And that's fraud. All right. Yes, Massachusetts has a separate pandemic site. The last I heard, though, you still had to call. That could have changed in the last few days because I didn't double check that right before this meeting. But my recommendation is to always Google, how do I get PUA in whatever state you want to apply in? And I guarantee you, if there's an online application, it'll pop right up because you're not the only person looking for it. How long does it take to get denied? It's pretty quick. Typically, with my experiences, denials come quicker than approvals because it's an automatic system, right? And so if it's going to deny you because you don't meet the criteria, it doesn't have to calculate your benefit amount. It just outright says no. Whereas if you get approved, the computer has to go through part 2 and calculate your benefit amount based on your base period. And so the approval will take longer than a denial. All right. That's just a matter of how it gets processed. The second part to that was, can you appeal? You can always, always, always appeal. If you get into having to appeal an unemployment decision, it can be very stressful. There are very, very strict timeline actions that you have to take. There are very strict deadlines. If you miss a deadline, you're done. If it says it has to be mailed within 3 days and you mail it in 4, you're done. Okay, you forfeited your right to appeal. So if you get to that point, make sure that you read the directions twice, take action once. Make sure you do it right the first time, because you can't just go back and fix it. All right. Veronica.
I want to apologize in advance to anybody that might not understand what I'm asking you, but I'm sure that you will understand it. And I do apologize in advance. Okay, so there's a big issue with gross, net, taxable wages.
Yep.
You explained that in the last session, and I understand that completely, that the state does not pay for your future retirement money. They only pay the 2% based on the income, not counting that. That being said, that if I get the
Veronica, I'm just going to pause you for just a minute. Everyone else that's listening, I will address that in more detail right after this question, because it's kind of the only large thing that's left, so that makes a little bit more sense. Veronica, go ahead.
Okay, so if I get the summer program, I don't have to worry about it. My issue is if I don't get the summer program and I'm doing either the COVID 3-month or 1 month, and I have to start claiming for those hours. My question is, and because I worked my whole full year last year was in Boston, but I worked 2 quarters full-time and 2 quarters part-time. So therefore, my weekly rate is not that great. So if they did not use my 401k as part of my gross wages, only minus my 401k, which actually then reduced my weekly amount, when I get ready to claim for the month, the 18.75 hours, if I put that I worked, that I got, you know, that amount of money comes to, say, for example, $780, and I'm going to claim it each week, technically $780 is my gross, which that is not what for this quarter that the company is going to pay their 2% on, because they're going to reduce that by my 25% that I put into my 401k. So in reality, my income is only $590 for income tax purposes. So when I go to claim my total amount for the month, should I be able to reduce that by the 25% because the company, I was only given my money on the lesser amount, not my gross wages. So in my eyes, I shouldn't have to report that I made $780 divided by 4 and so forth.
So,
okay.
So that's a lot to handle with kind of where we are. I agree with you that we should be able to report the same numbers that the state uses. I can tell you right now, probably not how the state is going to see it. I'm hesitant to give any type of answer other than report your gross anyway, right now. What I will do is follow up on this because I'm now in touch. There's a couple of us in touch with payroll who's working it from their end, and we're working it from our end to get a more accurate answer on some things from the state of Massachusetts. I don't know when we're going to get that answer because JetBlue has been trying to get an answer since like March. And they can't get a hold of anyone even on the employer's line for unemployment in Massachusetts. So for now, report your gross because that's what the language says. And until we find something that says otherwise, you don't want to underreport and put yourself in a situation where you just inadvertently committed fraud.
But on the other hand, I don't want to over-report and then, you know, I lose money that I really should have been entitled to. And in addition to that, by using the gross, because of my weekly amount is so small, that I could end up just barely being eligible. And I understand I only need $1, but that's my concern, where if I could reduce it by that amount, if I could reduce it by the 25%, then I come in easily, you know, with having to worry about losing eligibility.
And again, the problem is there's no firm answer that says that we are allowed to reduce the amount of reporting. And so I would be, and this is just me, and this is where it's kind of like a personal judgment call for yourself. And we're all going to be faced with these. And it's about how much risk you're willing to take, what the reward is, and whether you're comfortable doing it. So if you're comfortable taking that risk and possibly underreporting, then hey, that's your decision. I personally would not do that because I have not been able to find anything in the state statutes for Massachusetts that allow me to take that deduction on my own.
Okay. And I see what you're saying, although I feel pretty confident based on what they did initially, that when JetBlue sends them the quarterly earnings, that if I did reduce it by the 25, my amount is going to equal what JetBlue is. But
I completely agree with you there. So when it gets kicked to audit, if it gets kicked to audit, the numbers are going to match up from employer reported wages and what you've reported. The only thing that's not going to match up is the paycheck stub, right? The raw numbers on the paycheck stub. So I'm not disagreeing with you there. That's just a personal decision on whether or not you're willing to have to explain that later.
Okay, and then I have just one more quick question in case I do have to start reporting weekly if I don't get the summer leave. Is that for Massachusetts, it has the question for working the hours. It states here, enter the total number of hours worked during the week. Now, I would say 0, and I don't know if I should say 0 or put the 4 in there, because then a few questions down, it says, did you earn part-time wages not from military service or self-employment? So you would put yes, and then it asks you, I guess, to put an amount.
Yep.
So would you just put an amount and not put the hours worked? Because we physically didn't. I think either or. If you put 4.5 hours, 4.69, and then put that dollar amount times your week, your rate of pay, and put that amount in, you should be okay.
Yes, I would agree with that. So I think it's just a decision of which one you want to do.
Okay. I think you have to answer to both of those questions. So you'd either put 0 or 4.69 or whatever it came out to for the week. And then I think it asked you what the earnings were, like asking you to put the amount of earning.
Yep. I think that would be accurate as well. I think any combination of that. The thing is as long as you're disclosing. I mean, your worst case scenario is you're going to put the hours and not the amount, or the amount and not the hours, and it's going to kick you into pending. And then once you're in pending, a human has to review it, or you have to call in and correct it. Or you can report both and it'll approve it. It's really, I don't know how the algorithm on the back end is working on that specific issue. So it's just kind of hard to say with what the computer is willing to accept. I will say, just from experience with everything, when in doubt, disclose. When in doubt, disclose. When in doubt, disclose. It is always better to overshare than undershare. And realistically, you're getting to the same result anyway. With however you wanted to report those, you're getting to the same result. You're disclosing what you're getting. So I think you're good in either combination.
Okay. All right. Once again, thank you.
So, Grimal, I'm going to take the two that have their hands raised now, and then I'm going to go back and explain that wage mismatch issue. So just bear with me on that. Grimaldi.
Hi. I had one question, but piggybacking on Veronica, I have a second question now, and a helpful comment for some of the New Yorkers. The first question that I have is because I'm still pending, and I've been pending for the past 4 weeks. Since I live in Florida and I was based out of JFK for the majority of last year and what have you. If they call me, let's say if they don't approve me systematically, will they basically ask me for my wages or something along those lines in Florida to make a decision, or how that goes? Just for me to be ready.
So I have a question for you now. Who is the they?
The unemployment insurance people.
I got that. Which state? Who's calling you, New York or Florida?
New York.
Okay, New York, because you were based in JFK for the majority of it, they should go ahead and accept the claim as long as you were based there within 90 days prior to the claim.
Sorry, that was the whole, I guess I got confused. I was based in Orlando for the majority of the year, and I just started in JFK in March. So that's why I think I'm still in pending, because they don't have enough data on their site.
Yep, that's correct. So what they may do is deny you and tell you wrong state, go file in Florida.
Okay. Now, the second question is, piggybacking on Veronica, I did the withdrawal from my 401k. And I've been reporting 0 because I haven't received an income, and I didn't know if that was qualified as an income, but
so I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there, because that's, and I get why you got that out of what she said, but that's not what she was talking about. I only know that because we've been in contact the last session and in between. She wasn't talking about a 401k withdrawal. She was talking about a 401k contribution. And that goes to the wage difference issue. So I'm going to explain that in just a minute. Okay.
Okay.
And no, I do not believe you have to report a 401k withdrawal as income. I believe it's exempted.
Awesome. And then for those of New York, we were discussing about the pandemic assistance. In New York, you definitely have an option on the website. That's what I did because I was explained by another crew member. If you log into the website under the New York unemployment system, you go to online forms, you can do it over there. You don't have to call. So I don't know if that's the same for every state, but at least for New York, that's how I did it. And that's how I guess I got the money on Friday.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
Throw out there.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to go to Sharon.
Hi. My question is, if you have reduced hours now and then you take the summer off, does it throw up any red flags? No? Okay. Oh, I can't hear you.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not going to throw up any red flags because the key question in determining whether you're filing for a reduction in hours or a normal unemployment claim is, do you still have a job? If the answer to that question is yes, then it's a reduction in hours. Even though you're getting reduced all the way to 0, it's still a reduction in hours because it's not a separation.
Okay.
You are not unemployed, you're just not getting paid. And those are two different legal determinations. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so yeah, if you're on a reduction in hours and you take any of the leaves, it's still a reduction in hours claim, and it's not going to throw up a red flag.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So we'll go to the written questions. One question was, will Massachusetts or whoever you're applying with consider a different state's previous employment if you have less than a year? We've already talked about that quite a bit. The short answer is no, because they never got paid the 2% tax on that money, so they're not going to pay out against a claim. That would be, remember, this is insurance, okay? So that would be like if you have Geico for car insurance and you get into an accident and you go ask Allstate to pay for it. They're not going to do it. Same thing with the states, okay? Because you didn't pay Allstate for your premium, you paid Geico. Make sense? Same thing happens here. Massachusetts was paid, so they're only going to consider what Massachusetts was paid. They're not going to consider your former employment in Kentucky because they can't get the money from Kentucky. All right. So piggybacking on the ADA leave, the question is, what about you're out because your child is out of school? If you're on an ADA leave, I don't think that relates to your child being out of school. FMLA would not cover that either. Just the legal requirements under FMLA would not allow for that because it's not a medical condition. You're not providing medical care. So, and I'm making these distinctions because I don't want people to overgeneralize these different leave types. FMLA is a very specific legally authorized leave program. An ADA leave is very similar. It is a very narrow program with what qualifies for it. Now, that being said, let's say you go out on a personal leave of absence because your child is out of school because the schools are closed. If the schools are closed because the governor of your state has said they have to be closed and they can't reopen, then yes, that's COVID related, so that could qualify. But again, it's not an FMLA leave and it's not an ADA leave. That would be more of a personal leave. So just make sure that you're not overgeneralizing and blurring the lines of the different leave types. But yes, if your state is subject to a shutdown order for the schools and you're out because you have to take care of your kids and you have some type of leave that authorizes you to do that, again, it's not FMLA. If you have FMLA because your child has a chronic illness and you are calling out of work, FMLA, because your child is out of school, that's not acceptable. That is FMLA abuse, and it could even get you fired. So please, please, please do not misuse your FMLA because it's convenient. Look into the other leave options, talk with your team leads and base management, talk with the people department. Our people department is out of Salt Lake. Our people department, I've had to work with them a lot. They are phenomenal and they really want to help. Give them a call and say, what are my options? But do not misuse your FMLA for a non-FMLA issue, because I hate to put it this way, but companies overall are looking at ways to reduce their payroll liability. They're looking at ways to get people off of their payroll that they no longer need. Don't hand them an easy excuse of FMLA abuse. That's my little rant on that. I am planning on doing an ADA and FMLA session. So when I do one of those, everyone will get an email about it. If you want to join, you can. It'll be much shorter, but that's my rant on that. So if your child's out of school because of a shutdown order, then yes, PUA should be approved there. How do you withdraw a claim that you just started? That is a really good question. So the issue here is, and this is another system limitation, unemployment isn't really designed to handle interstate claims. They're not really designed to handle claims by people that don't know which of the 10 states that we end up in we should be claiming in. So they tend to not have an electronic method for withdrawing the claim. So unfortunately, you're going to have to call them if you want to withdraw your claim, and you're going to have to sit on hold until you get through to someone, and you're going to have to tell them that you want to close your claim and withdraw it. But talk through it with that person first. Don't just call and say, hey, I want to withdraw, thanks. And now all of a sudden you're withdrawn, and realistically you shouldn't have withdrawn. So just make sure you look into it before you just call them up and say, I want to withdraw. Start a conversation with the representative and say, hey, here's my situation. I think I should withdraw my claim because I think I should be filing over here. Or, if it's you thought you were going to take leave and now you're not going to take leave, and you're actually, because you're senior enough, you're able to fly 105 hours like you used to, and you're just saying, you know what, screw it, this is too complicated, I want to fly my 105, then yeah, go ahead and call and withdraw and say, you know what, I thought I was going to be on COVID leave, but I'm not anymore. Go ahead and withdraw my application. But my big thing is talk to them first. Don't just screw yourself up to where you're back at square one and you lose your pay protection, for lack of a better term, back to the original data claim. All right. If you don't get awarded any leave and you took crew flex from May to July, can you still file for reduction of hours and get UI? I would say yes. And that's, I'm going to emphasize this. The only reason I am saying yes is because crew flex for that period is an additional offering this year because of COVID. So the reason for your hours reduction is still COVID related, right? Because it's not like you bid for crew flex in March and now you're going, woohoo, I got crew flex like I wanted in March, and now this COVID issue. No, you didn't take crew flex because of COVID. You took it because you wanted to take crew flex. So saying otherwise could get you in trouble. Now, if you took that special offering of crew flex for just that summer period where they offered that additional period, then that's a special COVID related offering. Do you see the difference there? Yeah, no, yeah. I know some of this sounds like it's splitting hairs, but there are Supreme Court cases over the placement of a comma. So sometimes it is necessary to split hairs on things like this because your intent is going to be a big determining factor. Okay. And I want to just take a minute and say your worst case scenario, if you're doing everything in good faith, in other words, you're not lying to the government, you're not saying my intent is this when it was really this. You're trying to file what you're supposed to be filing, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Your biggest risk is getting audited. Okay, so eventually when all of this process, when they catch up with everything, they're going to throw some things into audit, and another department is going to look over everything and they're going to go, hey, we think we overpaid you. So we want to look at all your records, your financial records, your pay records, all of that, right? They're going to contact JetBlue. They're going to pull all the information they can from them. And they're going to kind of go that route. Your worst case scenario, as long as you haven't lied to the government, is an order for repayment. Okay, they're going to come up with a number and they're going to say, we overpaid you by X amount of dollars and we want it back. At that point, most of the time you're going to be able to negotiate a repayment plan. And you'll just make a monthly payment until it's paid back. But you have two options there. You can either start repaying it and make that repayment plan, or you can appeal the determination and say, no, you didn't overpay me. You didn't consider all of this other stuff. And you can go into an appeal and you can argue it out. But those are your two options. So your worst case scenario, as long as you're not lying, as long as you're not mischaracterizing something intentionally, your worst case scenario is simply an order for repayment. All right, it's not going to carry criminal and civil penalties unless you actually did something wrong. All right. Someone asked about the best number for Massachusetts. The best number for you to call is 877-626-6800, 877-626-6800. Something that I mentioned in the last session that I'll mention again. Typically, from my experience, the best time to call unemployment is Wednesday or Thursday morning as soon as the lines open. So if the lines open at 9 a.m., be on the phone at 8:59 a.m. on a Wednesday or Thursday morning. And I'm going to explain the logic behind that a little bit. You have to file weekly, right? Well, everybody wants their money yesterday, not tomorrow, right? So what ends up happening is everybody files on Sunday. 20% of the people that file screw up their filing, so they have to call on Monday. Everybody that didn't file online because they don't understand how, or they're not good with computers, or they don't have a computer, they call to file over the phone for that week on Monday. Half of them don't get through on Monday, so they call back on Tuesday. And so Monday and Tuesday, you're just overloading the phone lines, and it's just really, really long hold times because they're dealing with issues that came up on Sunday. And so by Wednesday, they've kind of gotten to a normal level of call volume, and same with Thursday. And so Wednesday or Thursday, right when the lines open, are going to be your best time to call. All right. Now, let's talk about the wages, because that's kind of where we left off before our break. There was an issue in, and this is more Massachusetts specific, but there was an issue where when you looked at the wages reported based on the determination letter, because it was the determination letter that showed your previous 4 quarters and your base period and talked about your alternate base period and all that jazz. And when you looked at those wages and you looked at your W-2, they didn't match, right? And when you look at your W-2, it shows that they reported the lower number under wages and tips and not the higher number under Medicare wages and tips, right? So we've narrowed it down to that's the discrepancy. Those are the numbers that are at issue in these. So that's at least where you can look, okay? So the question becomes, why are those two numbers different? And the answer to that is our pre-tax 401k contributions that come out of our paychecks. That's the difference between those two numbers. So that's why you have a wages and tips, and then you have a Medicare wages and tips. Medicare wages and tips are higher because you pay into Medicare on what we pay into our 401k, but we don't pay federal income tax on what we pay into our 401k. Is everybody still with me? Okay. Under Massachusetts law, and this is what we've been able to narrow down, we have a couple people in crew pay and payroll company wide that are also looking into this to verify it. However, we called their attention to it. And they kind of verified our belief, but it's all a working theory. Under Massachusetts law, employers only pay 2% of the wages and tip number, not the Medicare wages and tip number. When JetBlue gets a form from Massachusetts Unemployment, they report 3 different wage numbers 2 of those wage numbers, because that's what they're asked to do. They're following the directions on the form, okay? This is not a JetBlue issue. This is they're following the directions on the form and they don't know why Massachusetts is picking the number they're picking, all right? So they report the wages and tips like they're asked for and the Medicare wages like they're asked for, and then they report another number that is somewhere in the middle. Those numbers then go back to Massachusetts, and Massachusetts picks the one that determines the calculation, and Massachusetts is picking the wage and tip number, not the Medicare wage number. So what we've narrowed it down to is, even though it is gross wages for unemployment in Massachusetts is your total amount of wages paid minus your tax-exempt 401k contributions. And then that number that's left over is what your benefits are determined by. So JetBlue is reporting it correctly. We've been able to deduce everything to that point to where both sides are going, hey, this actually kind of makes sense now. We're just waiting for the final confirmation from the state. And so as soon as I get that, I'll just send everybody an email and say, hey, we got it confirmed. This is what's going on. Or I'll say, hey, our working theory was wrong. This is why they're choosing that number. But as soon as I get an answer, I will push that information right back out to you. Okay. In the meantime, I would say don't worry about sending in more documentation and saying, hey, my employer got it wrong, because JetBlue reported both of those numbers, the higher number and the lower number, and Massachusetts is the one making the decision to go with the lower number. All right. Now, that being said, I want to take a minute and talk a little bit more about 401ks. 401k loans are a big thing. There's a large portion of our crew members that have a 401k loan, okay? And that 401k loan is your money. You're borrowing against your own money. So you're taking money out of your retirement, you're paying it back with interest. Because you're paying it back with interest, you don't have to pay the tax penalty on it for the withdrawal. Makes sense? And because you're paying it back. By federal law, a 401k loan cannot exceed 5 years. Okay, that is the maximum duration of a 401k loan. The CARES Act has provided a provision for a relief extension. Okay, so you would go to Empower and you would look, if you have a 401k loan out and you're going on leave, right? So you're not going to be getting a paycheck for the next couple of months. And you have a paycheck contribution where you're paying back your loan and everything every paycheck. You're going to want to go to Empower and get the form titled COVID-related loan relief or loan extension. It's something like that. That is going to allow you to take every month that you cannot pay because you're on leave will be added to the end of your loan. So it will extend your loan by the same amount. All right. It is the only way to get out of the 5-year limitation. That's it. All right. That being said, interest will accrue in the meantime. All right. So even if you're not making payments for 4 months, interest will be accruing for 4 months. All right. With that, I've covered all of the major things that I kind of had on my list and my outline. So I will open it back up for questions and we will go from there. Otherwise, if no one has any more questions, then this will kind of be it, and I'll kind of give my final thoughts and thank yous, and we'll all kind of get on with the rest of our Monday. So, any questions? Veronica.
I couldn't let you go without asking one more question, and that is Can you explain, after our 26 weeks in Massachusetts, at least mine came to 26 weeks, would we or will we not qualify for a 13-week extension if at the end of that 26 weeks we use up all our unemployment entitlement? And is that a separate form at that time that we will fill out to be eligible? And will that go under like the pandemic assistance versus the FPUC?
So there's a few things working into that. The first and foremost is the only reason that we are eligible for unemployment right now is because of the CARES Act. All right. And so because that's the reason we're eligible, we're not entitled to a 13-week extension because we don't typically qualify for unemployment. We only qualify for 26 weeks of benefits because of a COVID-related issue, because we're on leave or we're on reduced hours or whatever our case is for COVID-related issues. So as of right now, the way the law is written, the way that legislation is, no, we're not going to qualify for a 13-week extension. So do not count on Congress being less dysfunctional than what they currently are and giving us an extension. Count on it running out at the end of July, just like it was scheduled, or the end of our 26 weeks, just like it was scheduled, and being done. The end of July is important because that's when the extra $600 a week runs out. That's it. And so unless they change that or pass an extension, it's not going to change. So don't count on it changing because it literally takes an act of Congress to change it. All right. So I'm just going to kind of throw this out there as kind of an overarching piece of advice. If unemployment gives you directions, follow it. So if you call them and they say, we'll call you back, just wait, they'll call you back. But again, keep in mind, a majority of the country is out of work. And so every state is overrun right now. So give their people working in the call centers a little bit of a break because they're also working from home. My boyfriend works in a call center for United Healthcare and he's working from home. So he's held up in our spare room with his entire call center station in there. And they're limited. They don't have all the resources at their fingertips that they would have if they were sitting in their actual workspace. In a lot of cases, they can't just walk over to a supervisor. They can't just walk over to a manager like they used to be able to. They're working with limitations. We all are. So if there's one other thing I can say is please, please, please be patient with them. They are human too, right? So, think of them as flight attendants and us as the customers right now. Don't do to them what you don't want a customer to do to you, right? Understand they have a job to do. Annette.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you very much for all that you're doing. And I'm very sorry I missed your first episode of this because I had a conflict. But I appreciate what you're doing and thank you for all the wonderful information.
Well, thank you guys for coming. As long as there's, still a demand for it and people still want them, I'm willing to do them. So if you talk to other crew members, or also, a lot of the information that we covered is very generalized information that's applicable to any state and any occupation. So if you have friends that aren't in the airline industry that are like, hey, I don't know what to do, and you know that a session is coming up, you're more than welcome to give them the link to the form. You're more than welcome to copy and paste the post from the in-flight pages and throw it on your personal page if you want, to promote it to other friends of yours if they have unemployment questions as well. Because a lot of this is really general information, and then I kind of tailor it a little bit to us, but I'm more than happy to help people that aren't just in the airline industry, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So I'm going to throw out a couple pieces of last minute information. This is not unemployment related. However, if you want to get in touch with me, the email address that I've set up to handle a lot of this is just my name, Wesley.Cornwell at myname.com, wesleycornwell.com. So, yeah, I got a deal on GoDaddy where I was like, oh, this is kind of cute. So, you know, it's wesley.cornwell at wesleycornwell.com. I am doing my best to get the videos edited and posted. I am not entirely sure where they are going to post yet, but they will get posted. I'm fortunate enough to have a couple people that are also volunteering their time to help edit and get them posted, and help moderate. They both did a great job today fielding both the written questions and raising hands and unmuting and stuff like that. So they said they didn't want me to call them out, so I'm going to respect that and just say thank you to everyone that's made this possible. My last bit with this is just in the Evite invitation, there is a spot where you can click to donate. Because I'm doing more of these, I'm trying to get better equipment to do them, and better technology to do them. So if you feel like you want to, you can go there and throw $2 at it or $5 or whatever you want at it. It will help me cover equipment costs and different things that are related to it, because I did have to get editing software, and I'm getting a better camera so that I don't look like a potato. So yeah, if you guys are able to, great. If not, I also totally understand, and just showing up and participating and submitting questions is totally fine. Do not feel obligated, but it would help me get the better equipment. And other than that, I have added everyone to just my email list. So whenever I do a session, I will send you an Evite very similar to today's. So if you do not want to receive any more Evites, send me an email to the email that we just posted so that I can remove you. But I'm not going to inundate you. I'm not turning it into a mailing list where I'm mailing you a bunch of useless crap every week. I'm only using it to send out the Evites so that everybody can see when an info session is going to happen. And then I'll shoot you an email to tell you when it's posted and where it's posted. Other than that, I'm not really using it for anything. I am going to send everybody a survey after this. So if you could take a couple minutes and fill it out, that would be immensely useful, because I will be able to go through and kind of tailor it and fix some things. Can you unmute iPad? I see your hand up, so we'll get to you just a minute. But yeah, just fill out the survey. It'll be coming from SurveyMonkey, so or Google Docs. I haven't decided yet because I don't want to pay for SurveyMonkey. But just check both your junk and spam folder, because I will be sending it out within the next like 12 hours. All right. And what's up?
Really quick, I was like writing some things down. If you would like to help out and donate to this, I missed where that part of that was at, and I tried to ask the question, but I wasn't able to.
Oh, it is in the Evite that got emailed to you, the electronic invitation.
Okay.
There's a little thing on the left. It says donate.
Okay.
You can click there.
All right.
And yeah, so if you can do it, that would be great. But it's in the Evite, and there's a donate tab.
Okay, absolutely.
If you don't want to go through there and do like have fees taken out, if you email me and just be like, hey, I want to throw something at you, then you can either Facebook it to me, or I can give you my Zelle. I don't have Venmo, but I can give you my Zelle and you can do it that way. But
Okay.
yeah, there, however you want to do it, if you're able to.
Okay.
I do want to just point out again, in case this wasn't clear, if you get denied for unemployment, you could still be eligible for the pandemic assistance. Okay? So make sure that if you get denied, you still either, if there's a separate application process for it now, make sure you do it. If there's not, call in and talk to a representative and say, hey, I was denied, but can I still get access to the pandemic assistance? And in most cases, the answer is yes, as long as you can show reduced hours. All right? So anyway, thank you again, everybody, for coming. Let me know how it went. Oh, Annette, you raised your hand real quick.
Well, thank you again. I was just going to say, and I don't want to open this whole thing up right now because we need more time, but there is the separate site. I tried to message you. The pandemic Mass has a separate site because I didn't get through on the other one, and I was able to go through the other one, and it took me 3 weeks, but I've been accepted through that. So I can maybe get with you and share that, and then we can do it at another time because I know we don't want to go on for another hour, just how that process went. I mean, I'm sure you don't want to.
No, that would be great. Shoot me an email about it, and then what I'll do for everyone that was here today is I'll send it back out as an email. So I'll take it, I'll reword it, add a couple links in there to make it simple and stuff like that, and then I'll get it back out to you guys. It'll probably take me a couple days to get it all done though, but yeah, shoot me an email with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge process. I think Amber may have mentioned it to you at some point that I was going to follow up with you on it. So yeah, it's a total different site with a link and that I would have never known about, but as you said, I called. When I was on the phone, the girl there kind of sent me to it, and I kind of put it as a backup while my regular Mass unemployment was in a appeal pending because it had the wrong wages were reported. And so anyways, it's an option for probably not everyone, just certain people that fall in the wrong, that in that other area. So I will, I'll just have your email. I will get that to you, and then next time. So sorry, I wanted to throw that out there real quick before you hung up, and thank you again for everything.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, so if that is it, I'm just gonna let everybody kind of sign out. I'll hang out for a couple minutes, but I'll just let everybody sign out. That's really all I have. So thank you again so much for showing up. To all of you that were here in the last one, thanks for sitting through 2 of them. And if you guys have any questions, just email me in the meantime, okay? Bye, guys.